Okay, we're all recording. So, Brandon, thank you so much. Welcome to Cinema Life and Everything. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm envious of being outside because I can't be, but I'm having a great day here at the new term at Lambda where I work full time as a facility assistant. And yeah, how's things going with you, Philip?
They're going all right. I think you're in London at the moment. From what I can see on the weather report, it's actually quite sunny and warm there today, whereas in Lincoln, where I am today, it's just throwing down of rain and actually quite cold as it goes. This tracksuit top and little sort of shirt I'm wearing was completely like hopeful dressing.
Misleading. Yeah, you
It's
misled me
not
here.
what
I'm
it's.
thinking you're in London with me, just
No.
far.
I'm a
Okay,
little bit
you're in
up north,
Lincoln.
and it's not worked out at all today. But I'm back. I'm in London tomorrow, so I think I get some of the
Yay.
sunshine tomorrow. So good
You
work, good
better.
work.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you're in the rain, but yeah,
Oh,
like I said, come on south. Come on south.
exactly, and we get to have a good conversation today anyway. So it's all a winner.
Okay.
So Brandon, before we go any further, just for like first time listeners and watchers, explain a little bit about your job, what you do, what you're into, what leads you here today.
Whew.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, that's a good listing of what. So my role here at the drama school is I just maintain the building. I sort of keep a routine checklist. I usually help people like point them in the right direction, or if they need things moved into a classroom or out of a classroom, I can do that. On the other hand, I am a trying to be a working full-time actor. Doing lots of auditions on self tapes, usually from classical theater to commercials to if there's like some indie roles, I'll try to go for film. That's my pursuit in life, is to do a lot more film and television roles. If I could add more VO work
Yep.
and podcasting, which you're the sort of like supportive role model here for me. That's why I really appreciate you inviting me on. And yeah, I'm just pursuing myself. Obviously, not being from England, I am an American who's taken 4 years of his life to study here, twice at two different programs of drama school, to really sort of embody and obviously embellish the acting world as best I can with my overly not so funny, cynical way of life that I have. No, but I love finding the instinctualness in the craft, and I found a great process of vocal work and movement of body from these conservatory style training programs that you don't get everywhere. So that's why I've spent a lot of years here, and I would love to stay longer. Keep me here, UK government.
So with acting, do you find it's like inhabiting a character, doing the research and understanding what makes people ticks, like getting into people's psyches? Or would you say it's something completely different for you? Is it like the vocalization, the physicality of becoming someone else? Or is it something else that don't really want to put reasoning behind you? Or is it a mixture of things that are indescribable?
I absolutely agree with the latter, which is that it's everything mixed together. And it's important. I found that no matter how many different categories or techniques that you grab, or it's not about finding the one correct one. It's about going, right. Each character is so unique and different. Sometimes I will incorporate them to myself. Sometimes I have to research because there's such a grand history that they brought, and that's especially for autobiographical pieces, which is one of the films we'll talk about.
Yes.
That is, I think, the keyest thing to do was to learn the history of this person who is of, a non-factual lifestyle. However, for I think more fictionalized things or pieces that maybe incorporate like a little bit like, yeah, I could just tell that this person had a bit of an animalistic vibe. So therefore I picked an animal and I studied it. And I learned that, yes, my vocal variety has to be, warmed up and used properly, but that instinctual like nature of that animal that they studied with, it can work as a balance. And again, some people have, I think, learning, I don't want to say disabilities, but they have a different way of learning. Sometimes people need to read, some people need to be analytical and very straightforward, but other people are maybe visual learners. So when they inhabit learning from the visual side, sometimes that makes them a little bit more spontaneous, or they're just like, yeah, the more image and colors I can play in my head, the more then I can just play with my body, my words when I'm in the moment, you know? So again, I won't just push for one technique. And if I was coaching and teaching, more or less, I would say, don't throw away what you learn and read, but don't just pick one. You have to be able to accept every variation, because you never know what you're going to play. You never know what you're going to take on, and you might surprise yourself with like, I went there in this character, or I was like, oh, it's so much easier to just be reserved and not have to overthink, you know? So yeah, I hope in that long scheme of answering,
no, it's really good.
Everything is important as long as you are enjoying it. And no one should be pressuring you saying, this is good, this is bad. Because I think we're just naturally going to be forced to answer everything as a yes, no, good, bad, black and white. And I think we need to just cut that out in our lives, but also in our rehearsal rooms and for showcasing, you know.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
One of the very few times I've actually been made speechless. I was like, yeah.
It was worth the $100K that I took to do this education for 4 years. In a span of 7 years, may I add, it took to just learn 4 years worth of drama, acting. Yeah.
Understanding that everything is valuable in its own way. No, absolutely incredibly put. So, Brandon, like, we've not been able to say anything to that at all. Let's talk about your 3 film choices for today then. What have you picked?
So the 3 films that I picked are very personal because which I gotta thank my family for being movie lovers. And these 3 films are all highly rated. Having done just a little bit of rereading about like the production value of each one of them, they each were nominated for Academy Awards. But the first one I picked is On the Waterfront by Elia Kazan, with Marlon Brando and Rod Steiger, Eve Marie Saint, and so on. And then Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner, James Earl Jones, Burt Lancaster, and Ray Liotta. And then lastly but not least is Amadeus by with F. Murray Abraham, Tom Holtz, Emily Behringer, and actually Jeffrey Jones, who he's not in the good list. But you know, if you knew him from the '90s, he was in so many films.
Oh my God, yeah, he was in everything, wasn't he? Yeah,
Beetlejuice, the one horror film with Guy Pearce and Robert Carlyle. Ravenous, that's it. Ravenous is such a classic film too. Such a surprise film, actually. But the 3, like I said, are Amadeus, On the Waterfront, and Field of Dreams.
So where would you like to sit? I mean, thank you so much for this choice in advance, because I got to watch 3 of my favourite films again. But where would you like to start?
We could save the best for last, so that's On the Waterfront. We could start with Amadeus because Amadeus. Oh my God, I just couldn't believe that as a 3-year-old watching that film.
Amazing!
My parents must have been just that. Wow, just that open. But the opening is obviously one of the more violent of the whole film. Is the bloodiest bit of the whole film is the very, very beginning. So of course, I was always taught to fast forward the first 3 minutes of the movie, but the rest of the film, my God, it's just funny growing up with it. Was probably a little bit of as a visual learner, as I was talking about earlier. That's kind of who I am. I definitely take the visual in. That music, those visuals, stunning cinematography, costumes, just such good acting, such great acting that you don't see as much anymore. It's phenomenal. It's just one of those phenomenal films, from the set, like I said, to the costume, to the music, to the characterizations. You know, I know they're not actually speaking with any accents or doing the, you know, Vienna or Italian or proper, you know, accents of any of these characters from history, but it didn't need it. You know, they were perfect as they were in their natural accents. So that's what's key and important. It's
so mad for me as well, watching Tom Hughes, and him being in that, getting nominated for an Oscar, and then really sort of just pulling out. Like, he did a few bits now and then, but like, what an absolute powerhouse performance, and of course that laugh, but just making some very brave and bold choices and standing up to Abraham, and just
F. Murray Abraham, yeah.
that's it, yeah, and being able to like just have that amazing interplay with him. And it's one of those films, it's a long film, but it doesn't feel long, it just passes so quickly.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously you got to give it to the man himself, Mozart, and his music, is taking all the bits from concertos to operas to just little, pieces of each bit of work that he's done. I mean, that's what also makes, I think, the movie so magical, is that music is magical. And I don't care if you've never seen an opera, you need to see a Mozart opera once in your life. If you've never gone to an orchestra concerto, you should go. And having actually grown up with obviously a family that loves classical music and has taken me to many operas and many sort of open orchestra presentations, you just go and you just fall in love with it even more. But yeah, that movie, I just can't believe how much it's not talked about anymore. But I love it. Like I said, it's not talked about much anymore. Nobody talks about great movies. They only talk about what's new and current. That isn't, as they say, bad, or the S word.
Oh yeah, exactly. Or what's due for a remake? But I would say if it was released tomorrow, it would still stand up, because it's just such a visual bombast. It's got such a timeless appeal, because it's basically dealing with music of timeless appeal. And do you find it? I mean, I found, even watching it now and hearing recently that Christopher Nolan said it was actually a massive inspiration for the way he directed Oppenheimer. This story of a battle between two men, and the idea of being slighted, and this feeling of envy and anger consuming your whole life. But at the same time, for a 3-year-old such as yourself, watching it, just hearing the music and the color and just the crazy, it's almost cartoon in places. Just like, it really has got that unbelievable way of appealing to all different ages as well.
But I'm on the side. But that's the thing. It's not which is good. It doesn't need too much gratuity or vulgarity to convey the story. And like you said, it conveys two storylines. It conveys the history and life of the growth of young Mozart. But we're also seeing the life and times of Salieri, which is great to see. And it doesn't need to be a long movie. Like it's long enough, but it's not. I think today people would think, oh, but stories like that need 4 hours or more now, because you want to get everything that they felt, and all the youth and the middle ground and the parts when they're getting older, like all of that. And I was like, nah, it did good enough to just get what you needed to get, which is right. Here's the man that is giving us the storyline of what happened previous, and yet it feels like we're living so fluidly between the past to the present, and the past bringing up into the it's really a fantastic film. It's hard to even go, what specifically do you want to talk about in the scene? Well, I think one of the most funniest scene, like you said, is when Tom Mozart meets Salieri for the first time in front of the room of the emperor and everyone. What a clown, and yet he's enthralling. You know what I mean? And yet he's got that sort of whew, I own the room. You know what I mean? Isn't this fantastic? And no, I think it's great, but I want to change it again. Maybe you could add a little bit of dun, dun, dun,
and I've learnt the whole melody already without, just as I was walking into the room, just that unbelievable natural talent. Yeah. Do you think, here's a good question for you then, because I completely agree with what you just said about everything feels efficient, in a sense that nothing is overplayed. No scene is stayed on too long. They tell the story with the economy and the weight that it's needed. If you need to spend longer in this scene, they will do. If it's a quick jump there and back, or it just requires a couple of lines of dialogue from Salieri, that's all they need. Do you think these days there's been a problem with the length of movies, or almost because of the abundance of content on streaming services now, things are almost going longer than they need to? Every film feels that if it's not clocking in at 3 hours, then it's not an event movie. If you've not got a show that's on Netflix or whatever that's not at least 12 episodes long, then they're not fulfilling the need.
It is true that from television to streaming to film, I do think there is a lengthier content level that people want to reach.
Mm.
I do think it's just it's like finding a new balance of, yes, the content sometimes is remakes, but sometimes it's better because of how much the digital age and the CGI is going higher than it was 20 years ago or 30
Yeah.
years ago, right? And I get that there is sort of like a push that it can help. However, it's true, the push for good writing is being ever so slightly, I think, just pulled too hard, and that's why us creatives have to make a bit of a stand to go, digital can't completely take over, because without us, it wouldn't be that good at all. And I don't care what the heavy sort of, you know, producers and, you know, the people that we're striking against right now, they have an opinion that thinks cheaper is better and faster and more efficient. That's because that's just business model and business. The quality of life and quality of good writing or humanity and whatever else sort of category. Yeah, it's not great. So that's why, yes, the battle of balance is going on right now. And yes, streaming has sometimes a good quality when it's good. But as you can see, every good thing sort of hits a bad ending. Whether it's a series, you can't have a great exit in a series. I've noticed. I can count 10 shows right now I've watched, and each one did not have a satisfying ending. And I do think the consumers, which is us, and those that we're striking against, they need to just be like, yeah, we should take our hands off the robotic AI CGI level so much, and just go back to indie, because the more you help sponsor that, the better quality we can get for those streaming services, for the big cinemas, because I hesitate to go to cinemas anymore, not because of the price per se, but because what's worth going to see anymore.
Yes.
And even things that are going to be B-rated horror films or just sort of middle action flicks or rom-coms, I'm like, I'll give it a chance. Of course I'm going to support it. I'm going to give it a chance. And I come back feeling like, what a waste. What a waste. And now all I can think about is the quality of the money that it had in it and the quality that I spent to watch it, instead of going, what was actually all right for the movie, the idea, what was good. Yes, they did have some good sets. Obviously, the CGI is decent because a lot of people work hard on making that. But I don't talk about that anymore. I just talk about the money to this, the money to that. What do they advertise? The big grand, look how much money we spent on this, on that, on that.
Yeah.
And it was panned by audience. It was loved by audience. It was panned. So all you just think of is money, good, bad. Money, good, bad. That's it. That's all the quality of filmmaking and streaming and all this stuff anymore. So yes, we are in a very imbalanced, but yet always seeking for equality and balance in today's filmmaking age. And it is going to be hard to ever compare a movie like Amadeus to anything current. And that's too bad, because Barbie and Oppenheimer were beloved before it even came out. And I've heard mixed reviews for both. And I've only seen one. And I still go, good concept, but not great. Definitely not great. And I can't imagine Oppenheimer is going to be great, which is unfortunate, because I'm sure a lot of people would have liked it to be like that, to be, oh, it wasn't just the visuals, it was such compelling writing, and oh yeah, he really lived every single moment of that so brilliantly that I was like, I'm watching the man alive. I'm not thinking about Cillian Murphy or the other ones, or Florence Pugh's boobs. No, I'm not thinking about that at all. I'm thinking about that quality of life and the I felt it. Nah, I don't think a lot of people have said that or are going to feel like that. So one day, Philip, one day we'll bring it back.
Yeah, and I think, a big thing is they're just trying to create the event movie again. For me, more than anything, sort of, I will go and see a film anyway. I'll very rarely read a review because if I'll watch a trailer now because trailers give too much away. So if something hooks me, if the concept hooks me, I will find some way of going to see that. Barbie and Oppenheimer would deter. If they hadn't been a success, that would have been a very big warning sign for the cinema because it was clever how they didn't put them in opposition to each other, but these were the two events. I mean, they had nothing in common. So when people were coming up with this term Barbieheimer, I was like, what the hell? But it didn't matter. It became, with all the marketing, it became an event. Go and see both.
Right.
And even if you don't like it, everyone had an opinion on it. So I just think as long as you're getting people back into the cinema, I'm quite lucky where I live. The cinema is only £8 a ticket, £6 to £8.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Which is, when I went to see Beau is Afraid in London, I almost had a heart attack when I didn't how much cinema costs in London now. But do you think that some of it is down to the fact that, I mean, you can get streaming, but some people get a bit annoyed about the subscription models. That mid-level film, like A Field of Dreams, doesn't really get released anymore, or it doesn't seem to get the foothold in cinema, or there isn't a content about, like, there are DVDs, but it's dying. It's harder to get hold of them now. Having that way to get that sort of underground hit. I mean, one of my favourite films of all time, Fight Club, absolutely died on its release, bombed, but it just picked up through that DVD market. Do you think that we're sort of missing that now, that other way of getting that underground buzz? The last one I can remember that got that sort of underground buzz about it, even though it died or didn't really get a cinema release, was John Wick. The first one.
Yeah, the first one, that's true. Which, by the way, all those films, I totally agree. They're both very, very good and are going to be cinematic, part of the cinematic revolution because they stepped up in a different quality of storytelling. But like Field of Dreams, right? It didn't get the biggest hit, but at least it was still nominated for at least 2 or 3 Academy Awards, which it totally deserves. But I think, to answer your question, yes, it is impossible now to find copies of these films that aren't put to Bluetooth, which again is a very expensive module to own because having DVDs are dying. Having VHS is completely dead. But that's ironic because you can't get all the films on the internet anymore. Even if you try to legally find it on the black market, which I'm sure people have tried or try to make, you still can't find these classic films from black and white era to the last 30 years, 40 years of cinema. And that's actually something I don't think is discussed enough. Why is it that these quality of films that used to be on VHS and DVDs, but why aren't they transferred easy enough to, apparently, is it streaming packages or is it Bluetooth? Do we really have an even choice? No. I think people who own Bluetooth, have more money than they know what to do with themselves. And not everything is sponsored for Bluetooth's sake. But I know for those who still have game systems and who do own the occasional DVDs, because nowadays you don't go home and people have DVD players anymore. They're lucky to have a Fire Stick or a laptop, you know what I mean? Or everything has to be the 4K television where there is no insertable thing. It's just, it knows my Amazon, my TiVo, my Netflix, my everything. So the quality of life has changed so abruptly that we don't have a nice transition from the VHS upgrades to DVD up to Bluetooth now is completely live streamed, but available to any streaming, because streaming services now play this roulette game of if you don't get it in 3 months, it's going bye-bye. And if you're in the UK or US, that changes even, because I know the Disney UK has so many more shows and movie options compared to the US one. But the US Netflix has a lot more American shows that the UK can't get over here unless you wait for a long time from either Disney Plus or Amazon. And Amazon and Netflix and Disney, they're all complicated. There's no real order, set order and anything, which is unfortunate. So yes, I find it completely unorganized. It is it's like a bad game, which all money is apparently. It's a game of oh, did you get it? No, if you didn't get it, you have to wait again, like it's a stock market thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it will be out, no, it'll drop out, then it'll go back
Yeah.
up, well, then it'll drop out. And it's just like, no, I don't like playing like that. I've never tried the stocks. I don't want to if I can avoid it. So yeah, I think before I keep going in a tangent circle of
I
how
love
much this isn't an organized way of keeping us, but it's definitely keeping us sort of active to pay subscriptions and subscriptions and subscriptions. But yeah, why they decided to just cut out all DVDs and pretty much Blu-rays are hard to find even, without kind of making a nice stepwise process. I don't know, but hey, people are just making different sorts of money. You know what I mean? If someone will eventually round it off one day.
I think it has to come back to somewhere where you can physically own it, because it's like they made a big play for books, really, but you can still buy books. And for me, I still buy DVDs, I still buy Blu-rays, because one, I don't want to lose the ability to watch it when I want. Two, I get very fearful of things getting edited without my consent. It's up to me as a viewer whether I want to watch it or not. And three, and this is very important to me, if I buy a copy of it, I'm not going to show it to an audience for money. But, so don't worry about that, Fox, if you think that I'm going to suddenly illegally
Yeah.
But if you wanted to borrow a copy of this DVD and it's very hard to get, I would like to have that ability to lend. If it interests you, I think it's nice to be able to share entertainment, share art. And if that has become a thing that's impossible to do, it's almost forcing people into piracy, because it's nice to have the media to watch and have that ability to lend it when you want as well. You know? Tricky times. But should we go on to the second film? Should we go on to one of Kevin Costner's favorite Kevin Costner films, Field Dreams?
Yeah, let's because that's a little bit more lighthearted than Amadeus by a long shot. But still, because I did actually, funny enough, read the book many years ago after the movie came out, because obviously I wasn't born when it came out, or I was very young if it was. Now I'm trying to remember. No, I'm pretty sure it was in the late '80s, which I wasn't born yet. But God, that's another just surprisingly. I don't think it's a super big budget film, but it definitely touches me personally because, like I said, I've read the book. But before that, I actually went to the field in Dyersville, Iowa, as a young boy. So I got to actually run on the field, you know what I mean, and see the corn and see the house that they filmed it on, which was definitely someone else's property when the studio bought that to actually build the field and to do that. And you can still visit it to this day, which is great. In fact, like literally, was it 3 seasons ago, they did an honorary ball game at the field where they had the White Sox versus the New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox versus the New York Yankees. Being a White Sox fan, of course, I was so excited. And they brought back Kevin Costner to do a big speech about the anniversary of how long ago the film was, and they had the players walk out from the corn, which like the Ghost Figures did. That's such a, if you have to check, I do recommend for everyone to check it out on YouTube or however you watch that game, to see the highlights of it, because that's a pretty sick, memorable way to do that in honor of that film. But of course, it's very emotionally personal for people who I think it's a Father's Day film, and I call that, and I put it in that category because obviously the impact at the very end, as a spoiler alert, that's just yep. I don't care who you are. You better have, if you're truly dead inside, you won't feel it. But for everyone else, you gotta feel those emotions. You have to feel those tears.
What was coming, and I wasn't prepared for the power of it again, because it's so perfectly acted. I was like, I'm gonna cry, aren't I?
yeah, and it's funny because even like the dramatic, again, spoiler for everyone who haven't watched it yet, but needs to, is right from the impact of the voice, the impact of James Earl Jones. And then like the impact of like the event right before, right, the end, and it's just that's, I don't know how the writing does it, but the way of writing it to get to this powerful point, and the music playing such a key point again, which I think all three films, like I said, kind of deal with great cinema, not only great cinematography, but very good writing, and you got to give to those soundtracks. All three films have one of the most iconic soundtracks I think you'll ever hear. Because you hear that music, you can guess that film. well, especially Amadeus. I mean, everyone will go Mozart, 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 Mozart.
Yeah.
I Feel the Dreams. You just have to play that sad French horn or trombone that it is, and it's just you just
I
you
think
know
the first two films, we'll get onto On the Waterfront in a little while, but I think these two films as well, you've picked ones that are so, despite all of the bigger picture, so to speak, the story of relationships and emotions and the scripts are so perfectly measured. And
yeah
with the acting as well, everything in it, it's when cinema is collaborated perfectly, when art is brought together so perfectly with the music and the direction and the editing and the script, with every and the acting, when everything has been planted perfectly, you get. And it's the I don't know. For me now as well, event movies or epic movies are almost being built up before the fact. Like this is an epic movie. You cannot afford to miss this. I
yeah.
know it's happened before. I know Amadeus was built up quite a lot this time. It's fucking just hits, man. It's like one of those films that it was amazing and it just
Yeah.
built and the legend of it almost. It didn't. It's not knowingly showing. Neither in a way Amadeus didn't either, but it's just so perfect. It couldn't help but resonate with a massive amount of people.
And it always will. And like you said, it all three should be brought back, and I
Yes.
think they do. I do notice actually in certain movie theaters now, especially like Views and Odeon here to sort of name them, and hopefully they'll sponsor you. Is they actually are bringing, but they're silently bringing back for like a day or so movies of these good qualities, and I'm pretty sure they do it in the States. If we were near the Midwest, I'm sure there are local movie theaters that will bring back Field of Dreams for an anniversary,
Yes.
you know what I mean, night or so, and I know that I've seen Jurassic Park a few times. I've seen Lord of the Rings brought back to Everyman. I've seen a few cinemas, but I can tell you not enough people are going to them. They're going to what's newly released, but if it was really advertised really big about how, like, if you did like a special rate, right? People get this discounted while you go to see this film. Yes, so many people would go back to see it in higher def or bigger surround sound. Plus, it's discounted tickets. This is, I mean, this is funny how we have to equate it to this today's standards.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not about how brilliantly well scripted, how brilliantly the acting and the music and everything else compelling. It's got to be. We know it's difficult for your budget, so you enjoy this budgeted, discounted version of coming to see our film, and you might see that it's in better surround sound on our biggest screen, because obviously we couldn't just go, yeah, the one that's only 40 seater. Enjoy the bring back, comeback
Yeah.
setting. No, it's just funny how, like you said, we can discuss so deeply how emotionally impactful it is, and it really does. I mean, all three films will definitely impact you strongly and emotionally, I think, and it's so moving. That's why I chose them, because I can never say anything bad about all three of them. I mean, maybe there is something that didn't age well now, because everyone has to hit a standard of this isn't our quality of life, or this, we shouldn't say this word, or do this, but I'm like, okay, yeah, but just watch the film because that's what it had in there. Don't, right,
Yeah.
like you said, don't edit it out to go, oh, but it's so wrong. But it's like, yeah, but if nobody knows what's wrong, then they'll never know what's meant to be right when we're talking about making a better world outside of the film. So yeah, like you said, we do have to be careful with editing and cancelization, especially of cinema.
Yes.
The movie's not at fault for what happens outside, or what these people who do crimes and stuff like that, which I don't advocate for any of them. um and I just hope that, like, yeah, one day people come to realize, right, people who have committed crimes outside of the film, okay, but the film has nothing to do with it, so just
It's
let
art.
them make
Yeah.
the film, you know what I mean? And if they happen to have been in the film, maybe we shouldn't just be so quick to go cancel it, or they have to be edited out right away. Because yeah, they're still, like we said, we just mentioned Jeffrey Jones. Yeah, he's been tried for some not so great stuff. And no, I'll never support him. Definitely not. But what should I say? Oh, yeah, he should have been scraped out of all those 90s films. Oh, yeah, all of them. Get him, erase him, re-edit it. No. What is that going to do? What's that going to you just go like,
it's
yeah.
separating the art from the artist, and also understanding as well that art will always inspire. It will always evoke, but you cannot blame the art for what people do with that evocation or that inspiration. It's impossible. You can't have like how many billions of people live on this earth and go, this is naturally going to affect everyone in exactly the same way. That's the beauty of art. What maybe one person's absolute masterpiece, maybe another person's net, but it's important that it's getting some sort of result out of you.
I agree, and I actually would even advocate for all sort of really bright ideas and really dark ideas should just be made into the art, because I think, and this is me becoming an advocate for how do we can change the world, is anything that's so dark or so bright that hasn't been made into a film, you should just put it all in there. That's why it'd be like all guns should just be used for props. All you know what I mean? All ideas of murder really should be out of the world, so they could just be only focused on film. If there was a way to just get film to be like everything you feel should just automatically be put into a film, so that way you don't act in real life on it. That I wonder if that would actually help people like get it off them. Like if like, yes, I am a serial killer and I just want to make a movie just about serial killings, people would watch it. But at least it would be like you never have to worry about them doing it on the streets, because they just put it out in some sort of story. For what I mean, to be, which is again, this is a very crazy idea, but it would be nice if like, the thought of pain, struggle, or God, I wish I could show my love. Yes, you can, and that's what I think. That's what they think this will do for us. But if you don't know how to do it, no one's gonna do that.
Yes.
But I think it would be a great quality of life if you're like, I'm so forlorn for this person. How do I do it? I did that. I did that. How do I do that? Then, right? It would just be so simple to just be like, I am making my love for the said person come through this, and then it's just out there, and people can love and hate it all as much as they want, but it won't matter, because loving and hating things doesn't really matter, right? Everyone's opinion matters, but it doesn't matter enough to go, your life is worth demolishing because people love you or hate you. No,
and I think at that point what's really important was, and this is why remembering and making all art available, all films that have been like not making it so hard or shutting down things, because you may see something, and I don't know, Amadeus, that feeling of envy or that the glory of the music may give you a way of finding a language or a means of expressing your love to somebody else. It might be something as simple as just, do you want to come and watch this film with me because it meant the world to me, and then they get a great insight into your soul, and then you get a connection, and things go on from there. It's, Evoca is using the old art, but then also, like you say, being able to use those ideas to bring new stuff into fruition, but making sure there is a way that it can be seen as well, not to reduce the amount of outlets and ways, but getting, and not just, and I'm sorry, I know people love social media, it has got its uses, but I don't, I think at the moment maybe it's the Luddite in me, but reducing things to 15 seconds of content, I think maybe we're getting a little bit too short now. There has to be something between the 400 million 3-hour blockbuster and the 15-second dance video. There's a middle ground that we must
exactly. People people are, like you said, too short in the social media ground, because they say, oh, this is all you get, 30 seconds. You can't send an email that has a 25 megabyte image or picture, right? Why are you constricting this, but yet you're giving 400 billion pounds to build a movie that it's so because you're rushing it, but like it's £1 billion, but they have to do it in 6 months or less, actually 4 months or less. No, let's make it 2 weeks. Like I don't know why people restrict, and that is it's a big topic to discuss. Is like, studio, actually I think all these movies And most of the time you watch documentaries about filmmaking, there's always a stress. There's always a
Yes.
pressure, condense, or not enough time, not enough money, not enough time, not enough money. And I don't think that's changed actually. It's funny that and you think about it in the long run, it's just like, right, we modernized, but yet we're still under immense pressure to not pay enough people, or not give enough time, or not give enough safety, or not give enough. So right, where's the middle ground? I think that should have been our discussion today. Where is the middle ground?
Let's have another discussion. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. I was going to ask quickly: is there a favourite? Getting back on to the Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams is another film. Do you have Field of Dreams? Do you have a favourite scene from Field?
I've actually got a couple, because it's always hard. I can never pick, even picking three films was hard. But picking one particular scene, like I said, the most moving scene is definitely right at the end when Ray Liotta tells Kevin Costner, it wasn't about you, and then telling him that if you build it, he will come, and then ooh, getting emotional just trying to think about it.
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, anyone who, well, hopefully had a decent childhood, but even if you didn't, if you just have like a replay with somebody that you love so much, like, that's what it brings you. That's what it brings, is that deep philosophical love connection about what if you could build something so magical that it actually brings back somebody you never felt complete with. Oof, I'm getting emotional just talking about it, baby. Oof, I've never been so emotional in my life. No, I have. But like I said, that you just can't knock that scene. There's nothing as like James Earl Jones is so fantastic. Burt Lancaster to be brought in for his last film. Those are pinnacle scenes separately. But to I just don't think I know many films that can go right to the very end, and then it's so meaningful to just go, nah, I can breeze over that. Nah, I didn't feel it. I don't believe people who say that. I don't believe them for 1 second. If you were invested, if you really watched that film, you would be like, no, that's so significant. And yeah.
Give credit to Kevin Costner as well, because by and large, narration in films is never very good. But Kevin Costner did an amazing job narrating in that film as well. It's just beautiful.
I miss that. I know, it's true. If we're talking about him, from what he's gone through up till now, there seems to be a loss of, I don't know if it's age for him or just stress, and he did deal with some health issues. That's especially in like the early mid 2015 2010. He was dealing with some, I think, very scary health issues. But yeah, his charisma is still quite strong. And even before that, even in like Silverado, which is another recommended film, of course, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, talk about such a big film, and then, but like specifically for Kevin Costner, that was like a eye-whopping, fun-loving guy. I haven't seen him since. You know what I mean? You go Silverado, then Field of Dreams. He still had many elements, and he's still young. But then after that, it's not the same. I think Bull Durham is another Kevin Costner film that if anyone's going to watch before he gets much older in his career, and he does Swing Vote and Open Range, which aren't bad, but Open Range is much better as a cowboy film. That's very slow burn, but for a cowboy film directed by him, like, again, you just see such a different nuance from his young self, and Silverado to Field of Dreams, to then Bull Durham, and then Open Range. But those are some really decent Kevin Costner films that I really appeal to. But like I said, Field of Dreams, that energy, that was, like you said, well done, well acted by everybody, from the little girl to Ray Liotta, which you wouldn't even, I couldn't believe how I never realized that was Ray.
I know, really.
After all those years, because I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that they got this guy, and then years later, I'm like, wait, Goodfellas is the same act? No way. I don't know how I never got that before, but yeah,
crazy
it took me a while.
And it's so magical in that role as well, but everyone just remembered him from Goodfellas, but with stuff like Something Wild and Copland and No Escape, he did some crazy action films.
Crazy, yeah.
He's such an incredible actor, but like you say,
Yeah.
just that one iconic role was very, very hard for him to shake. Right, so we have, I think they're all the best really, but we have an absolute stone cold classic here, which I thank you. I mean, I often watch Brando a lot anyway for tips and tricks, but
How can we not? Exactly. I don't care. He's fantastic. One of the best in the world, you know.
yes, and for show, don't say, I think as well, just everything comes out and talking about charisma, but yes, and so dealing with striking and standing up for what you believe in and masculinity, that you couldn't have had a much more apt film choice at the moment as well. I wish everyone that likes a certain Andrew Tate would watch this film and then think about masculinity, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time.
No, but that's right, and that's what was good about Barbie, is that it wasn't just it was not anti-guy. It was a mix of femininity and masculinity, and the same is actually in this film. Even though it's a timepiece, it's a period piece, especially in old time New Jersey, New York in the late 40s, early 50s. This is a different way of life. But again, the significance of Eva Marine's Saint character is just as important as Rod Steiger's, as Carl Malden, as Lee J. Cobb, all of them together. You just can't go, oh, no. The men totally outruled. No, Eve Marine Saint had no fear, had to be almost innocent, but super strong. You know what I mean? And like, oh God, just that cinematography, the fact that a lot, having read some of the, Elia Kazan's notes about the filmmaking of Brando, that a lot of his actions and sometimes the dialogue was actually improv. And especially the cab scene about
yes,
being a contender.
I was gonna. This blew me away when I found out about this. Please say it to people.
How can we? Yeah, how can we not applaud two men and just a little bit of a film crew to completely go improv? Yeah. Improv that whole situation. You know the whole situation, but we don't have a proper way of writing it. And they just go, yeah, we got something. And they just go, and that's the final piece. That is incredible. And it's always iconic. Like no one cannot, everyone knows that quote, I could have been a contender, I could have been somebody, anyone, but now I'm just a bum, and that's what I am. Like seriously, anyone can remember that quote and go, oh, on the Waterfront. Oh yeah, Brando.
Yeah, exactly.
Brando. And that's what's legendary about the film. But having read that it's considered one of the most iconic American films ever made. See, that, like you said, that does resonate to the strikes, and it resonates to people who do go through hardships, and
class, and expectation, social expectation of don't get above your station. This is all that's meant for you.
Yeah. And then people are going to take advantage of you, and they say, oh no, but we're part of the union too, or we're going to take advantage of you, and it's for your bidding. If I put more loan on you, or if I take advantage of you, even though we could take away anything from you, and you still have to go, give me more. I need more. I need to work hard. It's a real cruel yet very well done outlook. Just from a dockyard to kind of signify how all business.
Like almost like what we've mentioned already. What above all else, the bottom line, above all else, the profit, and what else has to suffer can just sort of be written off. But I think the thing for me with Brando as well, when I got a chance to watch this film again the other day, is not even like such quotable dialogue. Like you say, people will know I could have been someone. It's, if you watch it with the sound off, just how he delivers with every ounce of his being, how expressive his eyes are, how he completely has that intent nailed down in every fiber of himself. It's just, I think, unfortunately, so many people, if you don't know about Brando and you've seen him more of as the tragic figure towards the end of his life, if you watch some of his younger performances and how beautiful he was, I mean, he was always beautiful in his way, but what a firecracker performer he was, and such intensity and vulnerability around this big hulking frame as well. And he just him and McQueen, man. Him and McQueen are just like everything to me, to be honest with you.
No, they're the legends, and including James Dean. Like those three were like even Paul Newman and Robert Redford. You got to add all. They had this American sexy man thing without trying to just promote America. Like they were just embodiments, and they just wanted to do the fiery acting or the stunts or the, you know what I mean? And they try to be in films that were very, very important, especially Dean and Kazan and Brando's Kazan. Like you just can't knock how amazing some of their films are, and unfortunately how they never got to work together. But then, but not even just them. Like I said, Eve Marie Saint, being like the only strong female in that movie, like she nailed it. That was her first acting job.
Jesus, I did not know that.
Insane.
My God.
Yeah, she had just newly married another actor, and she was now doing her first role at she was young. She must have been like 19 or something, or 20, and newly married and like crazy time, of course, back in that time. But like that's impressive acting for just a first timer, and just taking notes from Kazan, and also, you know, feeling Brando, because obviously he could just play. He just knew how, like you said, he was creative, he was fiery, he was brilliant. But I love the intensity of Carl Malden being the priest. I love the intensity of Lee J. Cobb, and Rod Steiger didn't have to be too intense, but he had his great moments of just being, you know, the gent, Charlie the gent, or when he's just trying to plead with his brother, you know, the heartache, the sad, and they all go, and yet the scenes unbelievably could go from, no, it's a bit soft, right? Especially Lee J. Cobb in the bar, and he's like, it's like I've seen them all, I know I live, but I know how hard it is, and I swept, and I had my neck in the, you know, he just goes from like this, and he's looking at a baby, he's talking this, and then just switching until I know how hard it is, kid, and I know what it's like to be on the floor and eat like a rat, and then they gave me this, and then, you know.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah.
And like you said, everyone, you could turn off the sound, and the way everyone's body describes their characters, or listening, or they're just, everyone, every scene, you can just see everyone being their character, just not trying to be a character, right? You can see from the bartenders to the loan shark, to everyone just sitting, listening at the pool table, or at the bar, or at the dock. So you just, everyone's body. It's like, see, how is it that acting has gotten so overly complex, and or maybe sometimes it's just mushy and it's not even acting. People just have to be like, we're just pretending to be there, but they're pretending. Whereas they're not pretending.
Acting. Yeah,
they're literally just wanting to just be and just do it. And I think that's the thing that we forget to do, is just to do. We are pretending too much to be listening background. I see background. I look at shows now, and I can see the background pretending to be right. They have to emote. They're emoting, and I'm like, save it for the theater. That's theater acting, right? Film. You know, there is a style difference you still have to go, good energy, wrong place at the wrong time. Could you just bring it back? Just more like, no. I just heard something that's a bit weird. Just react like, okay, I'm reacting, not.
Like, you're actually, like, the amount they react to is like, if you were sitting in that room, in that sense, there was no way you'd be able to hear that amount of the conversation. So like, and you don't know these people as well, so there's no way you'd be like I think the big thing for me, now we're getting into that famous woman from the Doctor Strange film. Have you seen that, sitting in the church for the first time?
Doctor Strange love?
No, so it's
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, the Multiverse of Madness. There's this famous scene where this woman, it's set in a church, and there's an extra sitting in a pew just behind Benedict Cumberbatch. And it's like, she acts like, I've never seen, it's indescribable. It's sort of like, she acts like she's never sat anywhere before, and this is the most amazing place you've ever sat in your life. It's like has a newborn experience as well. Like,
Yeah.
And it's like that made it to the final edit, and I'm just like, wow. Unless her character's motivation was she was coming up on LSD in a church,
Yeah.
I didn't. But this is what I think. Do you get this as well? That almost technology has jumped forward. These films you've given me to watch or over the last few days, they had technology in them. There's probably some CGI digital effects, maybe a little bit in Field of Dreams, maybe a little bit in Amadeus, probably not so much. A lot of it was more practical, but it's almost that cinema has run away with the ability to do at the moment. Maybe acting, there's so much more ability to get all of these different techniques and learn everything, and there's so much knowledge now that it's almost we've got to catch up with the knowledge, then start to reduce it again. Almost finding that looking at the films where CGI was first introduced, like I'm thinking of like a Jurassic Park, where they used it, but only to the points where it needed to be used. And at the moment, everything is CGI. And then when we're talking about acting techniques, suddenly I know every single acting technique because I've been on YouTube and watched all of them. But eventually, like we said right at the very beginning of this conversation, you find the ones that are true to you in that moment. And then you get the next Brando, then you get the next Dean, because it's almost a state of unlearning you need to go through now and not using everything just because it's available to you.
Yeah, no, I especially if we're starting with Marvel of that Marvel of Madness, I couldn't stand it. I was so shocked at what a drop of storytelling that was compared to the first one. And though Benedict Cumberbatch is definitely our president of Lambda, which I've met a couple times recently, and it's I of course I'm in awe that he can transform himself and do good work when the work is good. But like that scene, right, was for me the best scene between the two. That Michael I believe his name definitely starts with Michael, and with him, that was for me like the most sincere and yet actually heartfelt and a bit deep and dark scene, because it was sad that like all of this happened, and there was a little humor because I lost my cat, but you couldn't have done anything else. And I was like, that was great. That was actually one of the best scenes in the whole film, because the rest of the film for me was, it was oversaturated with CGI, so much so that it didn't make any sense, and I didn't understand why characters were doing what they were doing. And I was like, but even if you watch, it's connected with the TV series. No, I still don't understand why I was watching her be the villain when it didn't make any sense why she had to be the villain. And I like Sam Raimi, and he had some moments of Sam Raimi, but again, I was like, it wasn't scary enough, and then it didn't make sense enough. And so I was very disappointed by that production in the long run. And I do think they could have just focused, because Sam has done Spider-Man amazingly. Now talk about, I think beginning of CGI started with the really bad monster movies in the late 80s, early 90s. And then that sort of took over into, so less Jurassic Park electronics and people in the suits doing all the acting. Now it's got to be, let's just cut the cost of all of that monster makeup out, and then go into, the more digital thing like Mimic or Species 3. You know what I mean? Like it's just monsters and CGI. We're making it work. If it's okay, it'll get the money. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And then it's built up. But Spider-Man was, I think, one of the, after Superman, was one of those super movies and Batman, of course, the classic Tim Burton and Richard Donner ones. That was we are mixing practical with the digital side, and it's not awful because it was written well. And then the second one was even better.
Yeah.
And then the third one really dropped badly because of the oversaturated CGI and, again, convoluted storylines, which is exactly what Madness and Marvel are of them. I don't even want to say it right on purpose, just because I'm that distasteful of it. It's just too many things happening, but why? Because we just need to add it all because it will make sense in another segment, and I'm like, this is where that's a bit like, you had before Endgame, you were going with something, and you let movie makers just make a story that eventually might connect a little bit later, but at least it was just a story.
Standalone story.
But now that was an example of, okay, so after Endgame, we're just gonna try to over concept with a quick action thing, 30 seconds in. If you didn't watch the show before WandaVision, you're good luck. But even that didn't make sense, so good luck. And then good luck with the ending, because I still don't know what I'm supposed to get from all that. So yeah, good luck is pretty much what people they're saying. It's like, oh, just interpret it. But it's our new Super Bowl Disney. We can flaunt it, right? Because no one else can do it like that. Haha, right?
I just think really it's getting back to what you said one there that I really hope someone pick. Actually, you said three there, but the big one for me is Superman. I really hope someone picks that as their film choice one of these days, because I want to discuss that. But I think it doesn't matter how big the three you chose today. Doesn't matter how big the characters are. It doesn't matter how big the stakes are. Doesn't matter how much money you've invested into it. If it is an authentic story, well told and complete within itself, then it will always resonate. And that's, for me, how films become classics, because there's nothing extraneous there. It's what needs to be there, and it's what the director, what the actor, what the studio intended. And that's what you need to be watching now, not a tick box that you've hit all these marks and that equals okay. It's like performing. It's like if you do this and then look this way and do that and nod like that because you've seen all these other actors do it, then that will instantly be good acting. And it might not be, because you're not concentrating on the moment, you're concentrating on what you should be doing. And this is what I think is happening a lot at the moment. We're making the film we should be making as opposed to making the film that needs to be made.
Hit it right on the nail.
Well, listen, Brandon, we've done the hour. You've picked three absolutely amazing films. As I always say, I probably don't say it enough, but I'm going to say it now. If you haven't seen those three films, really, especially if you haven't seen all three of them, because they're all incredible.
No, all three,
Amadeus is a real, for one that won so many Oscars, has really been forgotten. So I would check all those three films out. Understand what a powerhouse Kevin Costner was back in the day. Understand how the fact you can lose Amadeus, and you shouldn't, because it's just perfect. And also, on the Waterfront, even though we're talking, oh Christ, almost 70 years
70
now.
Years ago,
it's like completely resonates with today. So check them out. Really, really do check them out. So before I leave you, thank you so much. Is there anywhere where people can check you out, or anything that's coming up you'd like people to know about? And I'll stick it in the show notes as well for you.
Oh God, I wish I had something coming up. I wasn't.
Well, it's what we were talking about. It's the same for everyone at the moment.
But no, I mean, anyone can follow me, on Instagram at @bbrando8. They can follow me at Twitter at @bbrando88. I have on Facebook. I have my website, Brandon Boruch. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm just still trying to edge my way into staying in this country and working full time and making up for my birthday bash last week from being in the Amsterdam. So
good one.
yeah. So I think I'm just gonna be steady for now. But yeah, I will keep you posted if I do have any. Actually, no, that's not true. I do have I'm in one scene of a upcoming Lambda short film that's coming up this Friday, but it will be on YouTube probably in the following week, and like end of September, like end of September. There'll be
perfect. Send that to me, because then when I
get the copy, I'll send it to you. But I'm in like one scene of that new short film that they do for the students.
Brilliant. Well,
so I've had a little. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I look forward to checking it out, and I will stick that link in the show notes as well. So if you're listening to this now or watching it on YouTube, if you look at the show notes, there'll be a link for you to click on to check that short scene out. Well, listen, mate, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll have to do it again at some point and talking about the meeting in the middle of cinema. People watching it with a sound don't go, what are they talking about? All the best, mate. Take care.
Hey, thank you so much, man.
Thanks,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.